Okay, so today's Noirvember film was a film that I was not quite sure if it was going to be neo-noir enough, and it ended up not quite being neo-noir enough, but I'm going to count it, and that would be, here it is, there we go, Ken Russell's Crimes of Passion. Now, a couple of things. One, I rented this because I went to go rent the movies that I was renting that I had already planned to rent for Noirvember for this week from Videodrome ATL here in Atlanta. But then I saw this amazing cover art, which I will post on Twitter so you can see it, for Arrow's new release. And it was so bright and pink and neon. And I was like, what is this movie? I need it. And they were like trying to warn me not to rent it. And then I had a free rental. So I was like, I'm getting this as my free rental. So they weren't really trying to warn me not to rent it, but they were basically saying, like, prepare yourself. I was not prepared. But first I want to talk about Ken Russell for a second. So I was asking people on Twitter when they first saw their first Ken Russell movie. And most people saw their first Ken Russell movie in their late 20s, early 30s, and or a couple of people saw The Boyfriend or Tommy when they were kind of young. But I found one other person whose first film was Lair of the White Worm, and they were also 11 or 12 when they saw it. And let me tell you, don't watch that movie when you're 11 or 12. I was not prepared for how much sex was in it, and violent sex, and like people being bitten on their penises and all kinds of things where I was like, what am I watching? And I was watching it with my father, who often let me watch things that, well, he wanted to watch things and he let me like watch them with him, and really should have been like, go in the other room, you're too young. And instead he was just like, sure, why not? A lot of trauma that way. Anyways, so that brings us to Ken Russell. If you know Ken Russell, you know what you're getting into. If you don't know Ken Russell, look him up. So I rented this, and it's written by Barry Sandler, which I don't know, what else did he write? Let's see here. Handful of things. Oh, he's still making stuff. He wrote The Mirror Cracked, among other things. Okay. Anyways, stars Kathleen Turner as a woman who is a fashion designer by day, prostitute by night, which is like every erotic thriller in the 1980s. Someone is something else, something during the day, and prostitute by night. Like, that is just erotic thrillers of the 80s. She is also dealing with a bunch of weird men in her life. One of them is played by Anthony Perkins, who is a street preacher who also happens to be a sex addict and a little deranged at that. He carries around a bunch of very dangerous sex toys in his parcel, and he is trying to save Kathleen Turner's character. She's also being followed by, where'd he go? Is it Stephen Lee? Is that the main guy? I think it's Stephen Lee. Right? Well, anyway, John Laughlin. There we go. John Laughlin, who, you first meet him, he's at a, like, sex addicts group brought by his friend, played by Bruce Davison. And he's like, what am I doing here? I don't know. I don't have any sex problems. And then you realize that, no, he does have sex problems. His wife, played by Annie Potts, is frigid. But really, she's probably just had several children and is not feeling up to having sex. / her husband's probably very bad at it. So, Annie Potts has a really good haircut in this movie. So, he gets hired to do some after-hours private investigating, like following people, even though during the day he owns a video, like, electronics store. And so why is someone hiring him to follow people? Like, that part of the plot doesn't really make any sense. But he needs some extra money because his kid needs braces. So naturally, you follow seedy people. Are you following me? Kathleen Turner's boss thinks she's selling his patterns to his rival and therefore is trying to follow her. That's when Bobby discovers that she is also a prostitute. And first, they, like, see each other professionally, and then they start seeing each other romantically, because that's also how all of these erotic thrillers work. Meanwhile, you haven't forgotten about Anthony Perkins, who is a sex-crazed street preacher, right? Right? So he's obviously going to, at some point, try to kill her with his stainless steel pointy dildo, because why else would you have a stainless steel pointy dildo if not to kill people with? Um, so that's this movie. Is it neo-noir? Kind of, because everything is just filled with dread. Sex is filled with dread. Prostitution is filled with dread. Marriage is filled with dread. Having a job is filled with dread. Everything is terrible. Religion is filled with dread. Just everything is awful. There is no there's no sun in this. Even the terrible like picnic or couples barbecue they try to have is just overwhelmed with the feeling that life is awful and everything is terrible. So, to that extent, everyone is suffering with style in this movie. There is kind of a mystery going on, and there is a murderer stalking people. So, there are aspects of the film that hit some of the noir places, check marks. I don't quite know if it crosses from just a run-of-the-mill erotic thriller into true neo-noir status, but it comes close. It definitely has an amazing 80s aesthetic with the sort of neon blue, purple, pink feel, and it definitely feels like a movie that someone like Nicholas Winding Refn like watched obsessively as a teenager, because it looks very much like his aesthetic as a grown director. You can get it, like I said, from Arrow. This is a region-free Blu-ray. Believe it or not, I have a Blu-ray player. If you ever see me tweet, I'm always taking pictures of a TV VCR because I watch everything either on my computer, on an iPad, or on a TV VCR from 1999. And yes, I have a Blu-ray player hooked up to a TV VCR from 1999. I'm not a tech geek. I just want to watch the movies. This is Crimes of Passion. If you do not like sexual violence, probably don't watch this. There's no actual rape in this movie, but there is rape simulation in with several of the customers actually that Kathleen Turner has. So if that's something that you're uncomfortable with, do not watch this movie. It definitely shows prostitution as less. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of how it shows prostitution, because she just sees it as a job to get, but you don't ever really find out like why she's doing it, like because she has a job and she says that she's never really been sexually satisfied, so this is her attempt at that. They don't really go deep enough into that. This actually has two versions on it. There's a director's cut and an unrated international cut or something. I only watched the director's cut. I don't know what the other version is like. Who knows? But you'll know what you're getting into as soon as you pop this DVD in, because the animated menu is this like silhouetted sex scene where Kathleen Turner and the guy go in like 7 different positions, but it's all silhouetted. That's kind of noir, actually. It is noir, not Crimes of Passion. I don't know. I don't even know if you like erotic thrillers, I'll recommend you this movie. If you like Ken Russell, I'll recommend you this movie. And maybe if you like Anthony Perkins, I could recommend you this movie. The rest of you just, go watch something else. This is from 1984. You can get it on DVD, like I said. And let me know when you first watched your first Ken Russell movie and how old you were and what your reaction was, because I'm always curious. He's such a strange director. Have a good night.